Right now, you are moving at an incredible speed. Even while sitting completely still, Earth's rotation is carrying you around the planet. At the equator, the surface moves at roughly 1,670 kilometers per hour. You do not feel it because the ground, the oceans, the atmosphere, and almost everything around you are moving together. But what would happen if Earth suddenly stopped spinning? The answer is far more violent than simply losing day and night.
Planet stop. Impossible. Destructive force.
So for this thought experiment, imagine that the solid planet is magically brought to a complete stop, while everything else is allowed to obey the normal laws of motion. The moment Earth stops, you do not stop with it. Earth stops. You fly east.
Near the equator, that speed would be faster than many passenger aircraft. People, cars, trees, buildings, and loose objects would be thrown violently eastward.
The effect would become weaker closer to the poles because the surface moves more slowly there. Someone standing directly at the North or South Pole would experience far less sideways movement than someone near the equator.
But almost everywhere else, the first few seconds would be catastrophic.
And the atmosphere would still be moving too. Before Earth stopped, the air rotated with the planet.
Once the surface became motionless, the atmosphere would continue rushing eastward due to inertia. Near the equator, wind speeds could exceed the speed of sound. These would not feel like ordinary hurricanes. The moving atmosphere would tear across the stationary ground, destroying forests, buildings, and cities.
Dust and debris would be carried enormous distances, turning the sky into a dark wall of moving material.
Mountains and uneven terrain might slow the air in some regions, but they would also create violent turbulence and powerful pressure waves.
Oceans surge, Earth spins, water flows. Gigantic waves would sweep eastward across coastlines and continents. Many coastal cities would disappear almost immediately. Water could travel far inland, carrying ships, buildings, and debris with it. The waves would not be equal everywhere, but most existing coastlines would be transformed.
The sudden movement of so much water, air, and material would also place enormous stress on Earth's crust. Earthquakes, landslides, and volcanic activity could follow as the planet adjusted to the abrupt change.
Even surviving the first day would not mean the danger was over. Earth's rotation currently creates the familiar cycle of day and night. Earth spins daily, orbits yearly. This means one complete solar day would last roughly an entire year. Many regions would experience months of continuous sunlight followed by months of darkness. During the long daylight period, the ground would keep absorbing energy from the sun. Temperatures would rise, lakes would evaporate, and exposed land could become dangerously hot. On the dark side, temperatures would fall for months. Water would freeze, snow and ice would spread, and the landscape would enter a prolonged night. The most habitable areas might be found near the moving boundary between light and darkness. As Earth continued traveling around the sun, this twilight zone would slowly move across the planet. Migrating survivors tread twilight's edge, between searing sun and frozen night. But the planet itself would also begin changing shape. Earth is not a perfect sphere. Its rotation creates a small outward effect around the equator, making the planet slightly wider through the middle and slightly flattened at the poles. If Earth stopped spinning, that equatorial bulge would no longer be supported in the same way. Over time, the planet would slowly become more spherical. This change would affect the oceans. Today, rotational effects help distribute water around the planet. Without rotation, water would gradually begin moving away from the equatorial region and towards the poles. Over a long enough period, vast new polar oceans could form. Large areas around the equator might become exposed land, creating an enormous dry belt circling the planet. Existing countries and coastlines would be almost unrecognizable. Your weight would also change slightly. Earth's rotation produces a small outward effect that reduces the weight you feel, especially near the equator. If the rotation stopped, this effect would disappear. You would not suddenly become much heavier, but a person at the equator would weigh slightly more than before. One common myth is that Earth's magnetic field would immediately vanish. That would not happen. The magnetic field is mainly produced by the movement of liquid metal inside Earth's outer core. The planet's rotation influences this process, But stopping the surface would not simply switch the magnetic field off in one instant.
Earth's core still, field fades.
Scientists could not confidently predict exactly how quickly this would happen, because the behavior of Earth's core is extremely complex.
Weakened shield, solar storms rage, tech and life imperiled. Could humans survive any of this?
A small number might survive the initial disaster in specially protected underground structures, particularly in regions closer to the poles where the rotational speed had been lower. They would need independent power, stored food, clean water, and systems capable of controlling temperature for months at a time.
Agriculture on the surface would become extremely difficult because of the long periods of heat and darkness. Many ecosystems would collapse. Plants adapted to normal day and night cycles would struggle. Animals would lose familiar seasonal and daily patterns.
Ocean circulation and weather systems would be completely reorganized. Human civilization depends on stable coastlines, predictable seasons, regular sunlight, and a relatively consistent climate.
A non-rotating Earth would provide almost none of these things.
But there is an important difference between Earth stopping instantly and Earth gradually slowing down. Our planet is already slowing, but only by a tiny amount. Moon's pull slows Earth's spin. This makes the length of a day increase by only a very small fraction of a second over long periods. Hundreds of millions of years ago, a day on Earth was shorter than it is today. Far in the future, days will become slightly longer. But Earth will not suddenly stop spinning because of this natural slowdown. The process is extraordinarily slow, and many other changes will affect the planet long before rotation could ever approach zero. So the good news is that Earth is not about to stop, but this thought experiment reveals something easy to forget. The calm, ordinary world around you depends on constant motion. The atmosphere stays with us because it moves with the planet. The oceans follow the same rotation. Day and night exist because Earth never stops turning. You cannot feel the speed beneath your feet.
But if that motion disappeared for even 1 second, almost everything familiar about our world would disappear with it.